From the shadowy depths of the city, where justice and mystery intertwine, emerges a broadcast as daring and vigilant as the masked Avenger himself. You are tuned in to the Green Hornet Case Files, unveiling the legacy and cultural significance of one of the greatest crime fighters of all time. Now, let the adventure begin. Here are your hosts, Kory and Greg.
You know, it feels good to be back in the studio.
It actually does.
Yeah. It works better when it's just you and I.
I enjoyed the experience of recording with the new format.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there is something about sitting across the desk from you to be able to play off of that.
It works really well for us. I agree.
It really truly does. Although we haven't said no to the other thing, and we're still utilizing that.
Well, yeah, and it's going to come in. It's going to come in handy. With I listened to episode 23 earlier today. Again.
Again?
Because I like to do that.
And?
It sounded great, but it was funny because I normally listen in the car, because I drive around a lot for my job. I have not had that opportunity in a few weeks. We talked about it. I hurt my back. And then on top of it, I was sick. So I've had a rough couple of weeks. But I was listening with my earbuds in today, like while I was working on some stuff at work. And the sound quality was pretty great. I was like, you know what? I'm actually pretty okay with everything that's happening. Like in a car, in a that kind of setup. You don't really notice audio details, but in your earbuds,
you do.
You're like, oh, I can hear it. You know.
I was called out just a little bit in regards to that by our friend Ben.
Oh.
Who said, there was a little weird slapback echo in there, and it's the little technical things that happened.
So I noticed those as well, and it was funny because I was trying to pinpoint whose mic it was coming from.
It was me.
Well, that's what I thought.
Yeah, because I tend to crank my headphones up a lot.
So
hey, welcome
sorry.
to Green Hornet Case Files, episode number 24.
I'm Greg.
Gotcha. Ooh. I'm not Kory.
I've been waiting to do that for 2 weeks.
Get a little buzz on that one. I wanted to say thanks to the guys for spending time with us, for David and Keith to come in and do the show.
It was so awesome because we had another hour conversation after we shut the mics off.
We did, and it was like the next day or so, and the thing was fully funded, so...
it cracked right off.
Yeah, it really and truly did.
We didn't even get the episode out.
Yeah, the episode wasn't even live before it was fully funded, so it was kind of weird. It was kind of weird. And they have now reached the first of their stretch goals, and are in the process. Maybe by the time this gets out, they'll be under the second stretch goal. I don't know.
And the fifth stretch goal is a dedication to you and I.
You and I.
Yeah. So that's
exactly.
It's nice of those guys to offer that.
If you donate, at least $250,000, I'm sure.
Anyway,
the only other news that I have is the film that we've been working on has been completed.
It's in the can,
It is totally in the can. I finished all the audio work on it. We made some last little minute tweaks and edits, and it is done. It's wrapped. And we're discussing now about maybe doing a little online premiere for the community,
which will be pretty cool. So it's a little thank you to everybody who hangs out and does this with us.
Yeah, it really and truly is. We have, I just got a confirmation this last week of a guest that'll be in one of the next upcoming shows that I think everybody's going to be excited about.
It's going to be fun, man. I'm really looking forward to it.
I think so.
It's a name that you have thrown around to me for going on a long time. I didn't want to do the math.
Yeah. 2009, I think, is when I met this person. Yeah.
And it's gonna be cool. I'm very, very chuffed, the topic, as you would say.
The topic, I would say chuffed. The topic is something you suggested, and it just sort of built from that.
Yeah.
It really and truly did.
And it's one that I've been wanting to do for a minute, and so I mean we're teasing it, but we're trying to be as vague as humanly possible.
Just really truly vague because whilst the person has agreed to, we haven't
locked everything down. Yeah.
Nothing's totally locked down yet. Our good friend Chris Dingsdale sent another. He says, "Cheers once again, fellas. Good episode. Nice van tale." Must have been talking about the Van Williams. Scott's story. Yeah, and said, "Kory, hope you recover."
Well, thank you so much. I am on the mend. Have physical therapy going, and I walked in to go do that yesterday. And it went really well, and I found it way helpful. And before I left, they had me scheduled for 12 more.
Well, of course they did. If your insurance is paying for it.
Right?
Well,
they're like,
we'll just take that and run with it.
Yeah, and I was like, I see what's going on, but I'm okay with it. I'm good.
Especially after the massage you told me about. And,
yeah, it worked out really well. And Sven's a nice dude.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the Green Hornet costume this week.
Oh, okay. All right.
Now, I know there's not, it's not like it's a real fancy kind of thing, but I did want to break it down just a little bit and discuss that. And
well, this is kind of your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
That's your jam.
It truly is. I haven't, it's been a few weeks since I was actually in the outfit again at Fan Expo in Portland.
Did I tell you I was going to ECC this year?
No.
Yeah, I don't
think I am. So.
Oh, really? Oh, no. Oh, now I'm bummed. But I got the meet and greet to meet Bruce Campbell.
Oh, there you go.
It's finally going to happen.
Yeah.
You have sent me pictures of Bruce at several cons.
I have. Yeah.
And I'm finally making it happen.
Bruce is, you sit and listen to him tell stories, and he's really funny because, and this has absolutely nothing to do with Green Hornet, but he basically, if you walk up and start, stumbling, and he'll go, "Next."
Yeah.
Thanks for coming. Next.
So we've talked about doing. You had an idea with Ian years ago.
Yeah, my son.
Of the con men.
Yeah.
As a podcast of going to cons.
Yeah.
And we've bounced around the idea of doing something similar. And there's a con TV on Amazon, and I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And so I discovered it the other day. I was flipping through, seeing what was on, and there's a game show called Last Fan Standing that is Bruce Campbell doing nerd trivia, like live, and watching him handle people who are just like never been on a stage and they just freeze up, and he just eats them alive.
He does. Yeah, well, that'll be fun for you going to ECCC.
Yeah, I've never been. I'm very excited.
Emerald City Comic Con is what it is in Seattle.
Yeah, it is going to be. This is jumping up a level.
Oh,
I've only been to smaller cons.
Yeah,
next to probably San Diego is the biggest on the West Coast.
Yeah, so one of the largest. And it's a big show. It truly is. I was actually approached this last weekend. We did a little tiny con here locally, and my Ghostbuster group went and did that. Didn't do any Green Hornet there, but I was approached by WorldCon, which WorldCon is travels around different cities every year.
Okay.
And you have to submit a proposal. Your group, whoever your group is, has to submit a proposal to bring WorldCon to whatever city it happens to be. This year it's in Seattle. Next year it's in LA. And, we discussed we're going to submit the film for WorldCon, cool. See what happens with that. And they're opening the door for presentations, doing panels. And
fantastic.
Discussing doing that with the panel that I do on Green Hornet.
And this is for Seattle?
This would be in Seattle.
This year?
Yeah, it's in August, I think.
Oh, okay.
So we'll see. I have no idea. It's very expensive to go, and there's not an awful lot of breaks, and it's like $250. It's like $250 to go for a weekend, and then on top of that, it's the hotels and the food and everything else. So that's a chunk. That is a chunk for just going to a weekend con.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really and truly is. But speaking of the going to cons and doing that, I have spent a lot of time trying to put together what I consider the most accurate outfit that I possibly can from the 1966 Van Williams.
I was going to say, you've also got some variant as well. Like you can change it up a little bit.
Yeah, I can. I did have a friend make a leather mask that is the 1940s.
Which is so cool.
Which is very
dope.
cool. It is very cool. And fairly accurate to what that was. But I got to doing some digging and realized that, if you go back, obviously on radio, you have no idea what the costume looks like.
Right.
They talk about, the Hornet in his mask and his hat and so forth, but there's not really an awful lot of description there.
Right.
And it wouldn't have been until either somebody saw a drawing. They did a few drawings, for the radio ad campaigns and newspapers or whatever that they did. It wasn't until the 1940s cereals that came out that you wound up getting the look.
Right.
But when you look back at that...
It's still not dialed in.
No, it really isn't. And if you look at any of the other cereals from that time, there's a lot of crossover.
Yeah.
Because most of it is, it's an overcoat, it's a fedora.
Right.
And because that was headwear of choice.
Right. Yeah, that was just common fashion.
Yeah, exactly. And in a lot of cases, it was a scarf, an ascot of some sort.
Right.
And that's what the 1940 costume is.
So, is there any color photos of that costume?
No, that I know of.
So I'm just kind of curious because I kind of wonder if it was even green. Because it wouldn't have to be.
It wouldn't have to be. And more than likely, it was not. More than likely, it was of a dark gray or black or...
Yeah. I was thinking of, I've seen colorized pictures of the Addams Family house. Mm-hmm. It's all pink.
Right.
And you think of it as this dark and dreary thing.
But you consider 1940, I don't believe we had color film stock in 1940. I would have to Google that and see.
Yeah, no, I doubt it. I'm just kind of, well, I mean, like, if it was saved anywhere, if it existed for a time outside of, you know what I'm saying?
Right,
like,
right.
Is it in a vault and somebody's like, oh, that's the Green Hornet outfit from the 1940s serials.
Right.
Click, and then take a picture.
It says Kodachrome came out in 1935. So, yes, there was, but it was still probably a process.
Well, it would have been a silent, like, 8mm type stuff, probably.
It went back. It goes clear back as far as Technicolor. Technicolor started in 22. Simple color process started in like 1990. So it was available then, but they just didn't use it.
Right. It wouldn't have been utilized, but I'm just kind of curious if it existed.
I've never seen it.
Podcast at greenhornet66.com.
Yeah. And
if you've seen it or if you know...
Yeah, some of you guys out there that are deeper than this, John, weigh in here. I know you probably have. If anybody has, John probably does. John Haig.
Yeah.
So, let us know. But the attire itself was nothing more. If you watch the 1940 serial, it was just a straight fedora. It was an overcoat with an ascot. You couldn't even see if what color shirt or tie or anything of that nature.
that was the Clark Kent glasses.
Yeah, exactly.
Was the ascot that covered his tie, so you couldn't recognize him.
And then this full face, leather.
The cool mask.
Yeah. And that kind of was the overall look. If you looked at any of the characters from back then, the Shadow.
Which just pulled the ascot up over his nose.
Just pulled the ascot up and had a little larger hat.
Yeah, almost Zorro-esque.
Yeah. Capes, things like that. Zorro had a cape.
Zorro did have a cape. Yeah.
So tights, Superman didn't come along until late 30s.
Yeah.
And I don't recall any of those kind of characters from back then that had that, capes and late 30s, 40s,
Yeah,
40s, late 40s.
The cape and the cowl finally came along.
Yeah. But if you've actually ever worn a Batman cowl,
no.
it's terrible.
I don't want anything to do with that. I'm claustrophobic, man.
It is very claustrophobic. And, the Batman move, where you got to move your head with your shoulders because you can't.
The neck doesn't turn.
No, you turn your head and, you can't see anything. I dressed up as Batman. This is a weird memory. In 1960 something or other, I suppose probably 66, 67. Being a little kid.
At Halloween or something?
I wanted to be in I believe it was a birthday present that I was given. My aunt had made,
okay.
the Batman outfit. And I wore it we had a big event that happened in our little tiny town, a big 3D horse show, that huge equestrian event. And they always did a parade.
Oh, okay.
For like the first day, everybody came around. And I dressed up and fixed my bicycle all up, and I had the Batman, ooh, man, I look dope. Man, I was there. But it was the same thing, riding your bicycle, you had to move your shoulders and, because otherwise you turn your face and, everything disappeared.
Right. And then you turn back and you're riding up a horse.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want that.
Or riding over something that the horse left in the street, which was never very nice. But when you consider, the look back then, and it just had to be the mask.
Yeah.
That was the Clark Kent thing, was to disguise yourself. You just wore this big full face mask. And I just always found that kind of interesting.
It's, you don't think about it. When you do think about it, you're like, nah, like that wouldn't work. I would recognize, say Batman.
Yeah.
So Commissioner Gordon knew Bruce Wayne.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You think... No, dude. You look him in the eye. You know who that is.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So you have to kind of suspend disbelief. But I think Britt had enough going on all the time that it wasn't. It was enough of a distraction to have the smoke bombs and the darts and Kato coming in and whipping ass and sorry.
It's okay.
But
do I need to buzz you on that one?
Yeah, you buzz me on that one. I'm trying.
All right.
So, but I mean, you've got all this distraction going on. The mask is enough to keep Britt Reed not recognizable.
Right.
And so, and I think that is something that you have to suspend disbelief on for a lot of characters, but I see it working.
I don't know if it really confuses me so much as just it's one of those conundrums when you look at 66 when Bill Dozier redid the Hornet, mm-hmm. and you've had the success of the Caped Crusader and his spandex, the men in tights kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you put your other guy in the exact same thing that they wore in the 1940s, with the exception of you've chopped the mask down so that you can see the actor.
Right.
And the sidekick is wearing a chauffeur's outfit?
Yeah.
Full-blown chauffeur's outfit.
Which became iconic.
It did. But again, with not much more than a domino kind of a mask.
Yep.
Just covering the eyes and the nose.
So here's the thing is we're talking about him sticking with the exact same basic outfit as
right.
the 1940s, but that was still fashionable at that time. The fedora, the suit, the trench coat, it's kind of a trench coat. Would you call it a trench coat?
It's actually a Chesterfield. The 1966 is known as a Chesterfield.
There we go.
See?
That's what I was.
But it's kind of an overcoat kind of thing, so.
It was also my preferred brand of cigarettes in 1966.
You weren't around in 1966, my friend.
But what I'm saying is, like, it didn't need modification. It was still, in my opinion, it was still iconic enough. It became even more iconic. But at the time, like, that wasn't that far out of the realm of what somebody would wear before they put the mask on. Other than the green, probably.
I want to ask this question of Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
It's the main reason I want to get Kevin on the show is to ask him about his run, because he explored the costume in his run.
Yep.
He went through, that version of Brit went through 3, 4, 5 different costumes. I'd have to go back and that's what I'll do tonight.
Yeah, and read them.
Reread the whole thing again.
I'm going to watch a movie tonight.
For about the 3rd or 4th time. Well, fine. Is it going to have...
It's gonna might have a costume in it. I don't know.
Might have a costume in it. But he explored that whole thing. He explored the spandex. He explored, all these different wild-looking, masks, helmets, and eventually
the trial and error of it. Yeah.
Eventually, the guy went, I just like the original thing. Just give me the hat and the mask, and I'm good to go.
Yeah. So, as you went along, and like you said, your costume is pretty accurate.
Fairly so.
It's pretty close.
Yeah.
So when you went through and were piecing it together,
right?
And you've had quite a bit of it custom done, right?
Everything at this point,
is custom made.
Everything is custom made now.
So how did you go about recreating it? Were you looking at specs? Or were you looking at, like, what did you do?
I did as much research as I could, first off.
Yeah.
And again, our friend John helped me out with some of that. He has such a fine archive of things. And, it had to be a Chesterfield. It had to be the Chesterfield coat with the different color collar, and you had to make sure that there were no buttons being seen on the outside, which,
right.
They're covered buttons. The pocket flaps. It had to have pocket flaps, but they wouldn't be a separate color. And the tailor, how it fit. The hat, it had to be a stingy brow on the thing.
You went through a couple of hats before you got it right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And, bless my wife, she had just a fabulous run of, or luck of finding this hat. It was a French hat. Mm-hmm. And, it was a wonderful hat that, she spent good money on.
Right.
Didn't look right.
Yeah.
It was okay for like the first one. Probably would be okay for the 40s outfit.
Yeah, okay.
It has more of a 40s kind of look to it. So I could pair it with the mask. And, the color was pretty good, but not exactly right either. So I was at a show recently, and I think we talked about this on the podcast. I ran into Bill Morrison. Did we mention that?
I don't know if we mentioned it on the show or not.
I don't know if we have or not.
You told me about it, but yeah.
Bill Morrison, if you don't know, has worked with Matt Groening on a lot of the Simpsons. He was
Futurama.
Like art director and so forth on Simpsons, Futurama, and so many others.
Yeah.
And I ran into Bill at a show, and he was drawing a picture of Homer Simpson as the Incredible Hulk.
Okay, I can see
and I'm in my outfit.
Yeah.
And I walked up and I said, "That is just wrong." And he turned around and looked at me and he goes, "I have a story to tell you." And because he's looking at my Green Hornet outfit.
Right.
And he starts into this story. So I got his card afterwards and called him and said, Bill, you've got to tell that story here on the podcast.
Yes.
So we're going to jump into that real quick right now.
Okay.
I get invited to the wedding of Paul Dini. And Paul, for people who don't know who he is, he's a writer, comic book writer, animation writer, but he was one of the producers of the Batman animated series. He got married and invited me and my wife to his wedding. The wedding invitation explicitly said, this is a costume wedding. You must wear a costume. It was almost threatening in its tone, like you're going to be in trouble if you don't. And I thought, well, I'd like to go as a comic character or an animation character of some kind. It got me thinking, gee, if I dress up like a comic character, that's going to be kind of weird at a wedding, so maybe I could come up with a character who already wears a suit. I'll be in costume, but I'll also feel kind of at home at a wedding. Like I won't feel weird about, having a cape and tights and that kind of thing. So I started thinking about all the characters, the masked adventurers who wore suits. I thought about the Spirit, obviously thought about the Green Hornet. I thought about the Sandman, the Golden Age Sandman. But I thought, I don't know if I want to wear a gas mask throughout the whole wedding. So I settled on the Green Hornet because that's kind of where my heart was. I was a bigger fan of the Green Hornet than any of the rest of those suit-wearing heroes. I'd seen some things online, like on eBay, that people were making the gas gun and people were making replicas of the mask. And I got those. I had a pair of green gloves and I had a skinny green tie that my dad had worn, a white shirt, black pants, black shoes. That was no problem. But I thought, okay, the two things I really need, I've got to get a hat that's got that stingy brim, but I've got to get a green one. I don't want to have to like spray paint it or try to dye it or anything like that. There's this great hat store. I don't know if it's still there, but in Pasadena, I lived in Southern California. They have this whole section of, 1960s looking short brimmed fedoras in all kinds of different colors. And amazingly, they had a really nice green one. So now I just have to get the coat. And I knew I wasn't going to luck out at a thrift store or anything like that. So I thought, I'm going to have to go to a tailor and have this thing made. So I found this tailor in Sherman Oaks and I went in with the hat. I told the guy, I need to have a coat made. And I had pictures of the Van Williams coat from the show with the black velvet collar and all that, but I needed to match this hat. So he got out this big book of fabric swatches and we start flipping through it and I'm holding the hat next to the swatches to see how close we can come. And we landed on this swatch that was almost a dead-on match. It was so perfect. And I just yelled, that's it. That's it. That's the one. So the guy, took down the order, wrote down the number of the fabric, and he said, it'll be ready in 2 weeks. So 2 weeks later, I come back and he's got this beautiful coat all made. I'm trying it on and it's just perfect. It feels great and it looks great. And he hands me the bill. It's $1,000. $1,000 for this coat. And I kind of gasped and I said, why is it so much? And he said, well, you chose cashmere. I never once thought to ask him. It just didn't occur to me that different fabrics would be more, some fabrics would be more expensive than others. I don't know why. I just figured they were all about the same. And I figured, the coat would cost me a couple $100. But nope, I had to pick the most expensive fabric in the whole book. So I bring it home, show it off a little bit. She's impressed. She thinks, wow, that looks great. How much did that cost? Of course, that's the first question. I just gulped down hard and I said, it was the $1,000. She said, what? I explained what I had done. And she said, you're going to get buried in that coat. Every wedding we go to, every funeral, any kind of formal occasion where the temperature is below 45 degrees, you are wearing that coat. And I do. That had to be almost 20 years, between 15 and 20 years, I think. I like wearing it. Every so often I have the occasion to dress up as the Hornet once in a while, I'll just wear it just for some kind of formal event. Most people, they just say, hey, that's a nice green coat.
That's just the kind of crazy stories that you wind up getting told when you say, that's just wrong. Homer Simpson is the Hulk.
But then you're walking through a con, and the art director for The Simpsons and Futurama is like, hey, wait a minute.
I got the story to tell you.
I made a huge blunder.
And I think Bill and I have become fast friends because of that.
That's such a great story. That's
really
so
is.
rad.
It is just a fabulous, fabulous story. I told Bill we'd have him on the show at some point in time.
Amazing.
I don't know what he has to do with it, but he has lots of fond memories from those days.
It's funny because I like that we're getting rooted with the Hornet, but still allowing ourselves to be tangential and with some of the people that are coming on, and I think that's just. It shows the reach. It's
the stories. The stories of how this affected you as a child. And I'm finding people stop me at cons and say, I watch Batman and I really like Batman, but I really like the Green Hornet.
Yeah.
It was such a better show and, those kind of things. Or, I listen to the radio shows all the time.
Right. It actually astounds me how many people tell us that. Like, I've always thought... And this is actually a conversation we've had.
Yeah.
Lots of times is I spent a lot of time listening to old time radio shows that you programmed on
on the radio.
On the radio back in the day.
Yeah.
And I always thought I was kind of this weird outlier, but there's so many people who enjoy them.
It was wild back in the 90s when I came out here to Washington State to change radio format and program a new station. The AM, that was the FM side. The AM side, once a year, did what they called their super weekend, and that was where they programmed. And
I would look forward to it every year.
And there was a guy locally who had a collection of reel-to-reels. I believe he was transferring from reel-to-reels to cassette that you could get radio shows. And he had a collection of thousands of those. And he would give us, he would go through and curate, what we were going to play in a weekend.
Right.
And gave us all these things. It's fabulous, fabulous old stuff.
So cool.
And now, you can go anywhere on the internet and you can find all these things.
Yeah. But it's the amount of, especially Hornet fans that we talk to, that love the radio show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like going back to the roots, man. It's awesome.
I still will listen, and in the evenings. We get done watching or doing supper or whatever. You want to put a radio show on? Let's put a radio show on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it really is. But this fascinated me, the whole idea of the costume. And now when I think about Amazia Entertainment working with Universal to try and build a new show, and when you look at what Seth did, he didn't stray very far.
No.
And I give him that. He kept true to the fedora. I think if I remember the show right, I've only seen it a few times. He did play with the costume a little bit, but wound up sticking to basically the same thing.
There's still a coat. There's still an ascot.
Yep.
Or a scarf, maybe. I don't remember specifically.
Little mask.
Yeah.
And in fact, they make a big deal about the mask being made of metal, that Kato has done. And I give him that. But again, the question in my brain is what would a new Hornet look like?
So that actually takes me to a topic we brought up in, I think, episode 1, maybe 2. We were talking about, I've always been enamored with the idea of a futuristic, dystopian, cyberpunk Green Hornet. And I'd still picture him in that world in the same outfit.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. Maybe the mask has some digital stuff going on or something.
Sure.
But I still picture the fedora and the coat and the mask because that's the character. If you take it away, is it still the Hornet?
I don't know, because you go from, if you use Batman as for instance, you go from Adam West wearing nothing but spandex And now it's Kevlar reinforced. It's, bulletproof this and...
Well, I guess that's a valid point, because you're taking it to a grittier, more
realistic,
grounded at least.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's realistic, but it is grounded, and you need some sort of protection. You're not just running out there dressed like an accountant in a plastic mask.
We talked about that with the superhero episode, to talk about the guys and gals that go out and actually live that life as superheroes on the streets of Seattle or wherever it happens to be. And they're not wearing spandex. They might have spandex over the top of something, but they're
padded up. They're,
leather or some kind of skate, football padding, something that is going to help them, survive on the mean streets. But I do wonder from time to time what could possibly be, the Green Hornet of the future. Same thing with the Black Beauty. That's always going through my brain is what's the new Black Beauty gonna look like?
It's a hover car.
Ooh, I'm kind of liking. No, actually, I'm not liking that.
Oh, dude, it would be so cool.
So, even though the costume has virtually remained unchanged, like you said earlier, I think it still works.
Oh, it absolutely does. The thing is, there's a style to that the fedora, the coat, the suit, like that. There's a style that is undying. And it's a timeless cool, because we still as a culture gravitate towards stories told where that's. We just had. I know it's a historical show, but Oppenheimer. Mad Men was huge.
Yeah.
Like people who in that, like everybody thinks that's suave, man. That's dope. It's super cool.
When you go to get married these days, you're still wearing a 3-piece suit.
Oh yeah.
And in a lot of cases they'll carry a cane and they'll wear a hat.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, it could be a top hat, could be, but
I got married in a flat cap.
There you go.
So
I think in a lot of ways, it still really and truly works. And I don't know that I would like to see anything other than, what it is. You look at the Spirit in 1940. That was same basic,
outfit, basically.
Same outfit. Zorro wore the hat, but he had the little short cape that he kind of, zipped around. But really isn't all that much different. Really and truly isn't all that much different. And it has that kind of noir feel.
And that's the other part of it, is it evokes a different time.
Yeah.
Even if it's set, even in Rogen's movie, it evokes a time long past.
Yeah.
And that is, kind of the heart of it, man. Like that's why we dig these stories told in those times. We've said this over and over about it. The best way to go forward would probably be some sort of period piece.
And I still agree with that.
And so it harkens back, and that's nostalgia is a beautifully toxic impulse. And so that's the kind of thing that just, feeds on that.
One of the things, and we'll kind of, as we kind of wrap up here, one of the things about the outfit that I like the most is a zipper.
I'm going to need a little bit more than you dropping that as the period of that sentence.
A lot of the costumes that you go to cons with are not easy to facilitate the needs of the many.
Now I am on board. See, I've never been a cosplayer.
So I have to tell you, you walk into the restroom, and if you have to undress to just take a pee, that is a problem.
It's where female cosplayers actually get the bonus, because they've typically got somebody coming with them into the restroom, so they got somebody to help. You gotta have your pit crew.
And with that, I think I'm going to leave that one totally alone.
Cancel me at podcast at greenhornet66.com.
Hey, if you like what you hear at the show, we've kind of gone all over the place with this one.
This is a wild one. I'm okay with it, though.
Yeah, we started going off on tangents, and we came back and
stuck the landing, dude.
Bill on the show, and thanks, Bill, for having that extra little story. It's a great story. Great story.
I'm excited to hear the feedback on that one.
We would love to hear from you. Again, podcast at greenhornet66.com. And if you like, subscribe, comment. We'd love that. And if you'd love to toss us a little extra change, you can do that too.
It all goes right to the show at Ko-Fi, coffee, ko-fi.com/Green Hornet Case Files.
Love to have you pop in and give us just a little toot if you like what you hear. And is that it?
I think we're gonna wrap it up.
I think that's
slide
it.
right out of here.
Before you get out of here, go to Moonstone Books or the Kickstarter campaign for the Green Hornet and Cato's Detroit Noir City. I'll give them one more shout.
Yeah, get us to the stretch goal of the dedication to me and Greg.
That's right. And very shortly, we will figure out how we can watch the new film Requiem for a Hornet.
Yes, waiting with bated breath.
All right.
On that,
hey, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Let's roll.
As the night envelops the city once more, our journey through the hidden alleys of history and valor comes to a close. You've been riding shotgun with the Green Hornet Case Files, where the echoes of the past meet the voices of the present. Tune in again for the next thrilling adventure where shadows speak, secrets unfold, and the legacy of the Green Hornet continues to inspire. The Green Hornet Case Files is a Grail Productions podcast. The Green Hornet is owned exclusively by Green Hornet, Inc. Until next time, vigilant listeners, keep your wits sharp and your spirit unbreakable.